because it's like the hypno eyes where hypno toad where you stare into the eyes. But because of the fact that you know it is literally coming from your eyes, I felt this worked.
I completely agree. I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about sight-based powers and sensory powers for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And actually this video was inspired when we were doing Warlock Eldritch Invocations for 5e D&D. We were breaking them down by pillars, and I'm like, man, a lot of these really let you see things. Like, you could do a whole character based on that. So I was kind of like, well, I wonder what other kind of things you can see, you know, or how you can expand the, you know, your powers of sight. And some of them are kind of like sight, but not quite.
Right. But if you begin looking at other classes and racial abilities, there's definitely a lot of things that you can kind of like pull in together and be like, all right, I've got like a sight-based superhero right in D&D.
Yeah, you know, matter of fact, we'll even put a link to that video we mentioned, and that is, you know, using Warlock Eldritch Invocations in 5e D&D for, we did them by the pillar, like I said, and for the combat pillar, put a link up here in this card. So, you know, there are 52 different powers that I found, and that's not even getting into magic items and spells. And that kind of like changes things. Now, we will say that a lot of the invocations do offer spell use, so there would be crossover in that regards. But when you begin looking at all of these, options, it is kind of, way more than you're going to be able to get into a single character. Yeah, for sure. The 52 of them, you're never going to get all of them. But there's a bunch from, like we said, like there's race, there's class, and feats is basically what we're going to cover here today. Just real quick, I want to mention the sponsor of this video, D&D Beyond. Power up your game with D&D Beyond. They made making this video for so much easier. It made it so much easier for us to sort through and locate all the different powers. I'm sure we still even missed a few, so let us know down in the comments which ones we missed. But on your way down to the comments, you can check that description box to find the link to D&D Beyond so you can power up your game with D&D Beyond.
All right, so if we, first look into the races, we have 3 different races that we feel have some sight-based powers in some degree or another. We've got Owlin, Deep Gnome, and Duergar.
Yeah, all 3 of these have superior dark vision, which means their dark vision is twice as good as basically anyone else's. It goes out to 120 feet. And then, and then also, a lot of those races used to have sunlight sensitivity, and they've just totally done away with that.
Chuck it off, it's gone, which is definitely cool. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, you want that superior dark vision, you have to pay for it. Not anymore. So
for the classes, we're going to kind of just go down the list and start off right at the top with the Artificer. Now, the Artificer class itself and subclasses doesn't necessarily give you a lot of abilities that are going to help you without delving into the spells. But the one thing an Artificer does do is give you access to infusions where you can make your own infused magic items, but more importantly, replicate magic items, which has several magic items that the Artificer can use that are going to help you, with sight powers or sensory powers.
So some of those items that we have, you've got Goggles of Night, Eyes of Charming, Lantern of Revealing, and Eyes of the Eagle. So those items are going to give you dark vision or some other sight-based powers to, really allow you to kind of begin to honing in on those cool powers.
Yeah, also the Gem of Seeing. You're going to basically, that's going to give you true sight. The Lantern of Revealing is going to reveal invisible creatures for you. Eyes of Charming are an interesting one because it allows you to charm someone, but the caveat is they have to be able to see you and you have to be able to see them. I very much get the vampire vibe. It's like you're wearing these lenses, these glasses, and the swirly eye thing gets going, and then they're mesmerized or whatever.
So definitely a lot of fun there, and it begins to, like I said, stretch out into the superhero powers that you might see in comic books.
And for those replicate magic items, they're going to range from getting access to Goggles of Night at 2nd level to the Gem of Seeing all the way up at 14th level, and in between there, so you're going to have access.
So next up, we're going to go into Barbarian, and when you look at the Totem Warrior Barbarian, or Path of the Totem Warrior, at 6th level, when you get your aspect of the beast, if you choose Eagle, you're going to be able to see up to a mile away and discern details as if it was looking at it, no more than 100 feet away. And dim light is not going to impose disadvantage on your ability to perceive. So like that is like, oh yeah, I can totally see that. No problem whatsoever.
I totally forgot about that. So what a factor to that I've overlooked, and I'm sure other people have as well, that enhances dark vision. That means dark vision is so much better because you don't get the disadvantages of using dark vision, when you're using perception and stuff if you have eyes of the eagle.
And that says like, you can perceive. So like if you've got dark vision, does that mean your dark vision extends to a mile? Like
no, it does not. It's
Well,
still only the range of your dark vision, but your dark vision at its range is so much better now.
So if you happen to be a Path of the Totem Warrior Barbarian and one of those races with superior dark vision, it's like even better.
It is even better. So next up is Path of the Wild Magic Barbarian, and they get magical awareness right at 3rd level. And basically what this does is allows them to see magical auras, and if it's a spell, they can actually detect the school of magic.
So next up, we're going to move into Bard, and at 3rd level, they're going to be able to get expertise. This is just an easy one. If you pop that into perception, you're just going to be able to see better.
So for Cleric, we actually have a bunch of them. Right at 1st level for the Grave Domain Cleric, you get Eyes of the Grave, and basically it just lets you detect undead.
For the Knowledge Cleric at 17th level, I've got this up on D&D Beyond. Starting at 17th level, you can call up visions of the past to relate to an object you hold or your immediate surroundings. If you spend at least a minute in meditation and prayer, then receive dreamlike, shadowy glimpses of recent events. You can meditate in this way a number of times equal to your wisdom score and must maintain concentration during that time. So, this allows you to get an object reading or an area reading, so like you can pull information that you would not have been able to do. It's not quite sight-based, but
it kind of is, because it actually puts you in the circumstances of the past and you kind of see it in a shadowy way. So I would argue it actually is.
Yeah, it is called Visions of the Past. So like it definitely feels like, to me, it's like extra sensory. But
yes.
Yeah, but it's there. It's cool. And like I said, I love that kind of stuff. You can have a lot of fun with it.
Again, one of my favorite domains is the Twilight Domain. Right at 1st level, you get Eyes of Night. And basically what that's going to allow you to do is it gives you dark vision out to 300 feet. Imagine stacking just one level of this with your Eyes of the Eagle Totem Barbarian, right? Like now it's like perfect sight out to 300 feet. It's still black and white, but it's not bad at all. But not only that, you can also give that vision to other people in your party as well.
That's really awesome and a lot of fun. So like we've only covered, a small portion of the classes, and we're already starting to see quite a lot of really, fun and interesting sight-based powers. So next up is Druid, and when we look at Druid, they've got access to Wild Shape, which means you're going to get access to any of the vision powers of any kind of beast that you can turn into, whether you're looking at, an eagle and be able to see from on high, or, a wolf that sees in the dark and can hunt just fine. A lot of choices, a lot of options there.
Yeah, there's quite a few animals that get blind sight, so you're going to get access to blind sight. You mentioned the eagle. I believe the eagle, if they make perception checks that involve sight, they get advantage on those checks, and there's probably other animals that do the same. So yeah, you have a plethora of options to enhance your sight powers and other sensory powers as well.
Speaking of blind fighting, if you go with fighter, you can take the blind fighting style. So this is certainly going to give you, that ability to perceive, within close proximity to you.
Yep, basically blind sight. You basically get a little bit of blind sight out of that. At 3rd level, if you choose your martial archetype as Battle Master, you're going to have to go to 7th level, but once you do, you get know your enemy, and basically if you study someone for a minute, I believe, you get to know things about them, if they have fighter levels, I think their armor class, their attack bonus, and that kind of things.
And whether or not they have more hit points than you.
So next up is Monk and Way of the Shadow. Right at 3rd level, you get access to certain spells you can cast with your key points, one of which is going to give you access to dark vision.
The other, if you go with the Monk of Way of the Ascendant Dragon, if you take it all the way to 17th level, you're going to be able to get blind sight. Super helpful, with, just like, oh yeah, I know it's there. I don't care if you're hidden. I don't care if you're invisible. It's there.
Way of the Astral Self. At 6th level, you get access to Astral Visage, which is going to give you Astral Sight, which is essentially Devil Sight that the Warlock gets. So basically, you can see in darkness and magical darkness as normal.
Moving on to Paladin, they're going to be able to get Divine Sense, and that allows them to kind of sense, extraplanar creatures, so you can detect whether there's undead, fiends, celestials, or fae. There might be a couple others, but like you know if there's something within proximity of you, and that's always a fun way of doing things.
And you can snag that right at 1st level.
The Paladins also are going to be able to choose a fighting style at 2nd, and when you do so, if you want that blind sight, you can get that blind fighting style.
Ranger, right at 1st level, you can choose to take one of the optional Ranger abilities, Deft Explorer, where you get Canny, which is going to give you access to expertise, which you can take in Perception.
They're also going to have the access to the fighting style, which gives them blind sight, the blind fighting, so it's another way to be able to see things within close proximity.
Yeah, so you offer some both at first and 2nd level. Then next, you're going to get access to Primeval Awareness, and that's basically you can use one of your spell slots, and then you can detect certain kinds of otherworldly creatures, around you, and that expands even further in your favored terrain.
Yeah, it can actually get out to miles, which is, pretty darn incredible if you ask me.
So that's 1, 2, and 3, and then we have one more ability on the other end of the Ranger.
So at 18th level, they're going to get Feral Senses, and this means that if a creature you're fighting is, if you're unable to see them, it doesn't impose disadvantage on them, so you can be able to attack as normal. Creatures within 30 feet of you that are invisible, aren't invisible to you so long as you're not blinded and deafened.
Then we're going to go into the Ranger subclasses, and at 3rd level, Gloomstalker, you can take Umbral Sight. Umbral Sight is amazing. It extends your dark vision out even further, and there's definitely some, it gives you dark vision if you don't have it, and if you do have it, it extends it out even further. It also makes you invisible to dark vision. Not really a sight and sensory power, but it's an extra benefit.
So Horizon Walker, at 3rd level, you're going to get immediate access to the ability to detect portal. So if there's a planar portal, you can cross over into some other plane of existence within 1 mile of you, you automatically know of its location.
Monster Slayer at 3rd level, you can take and get Hunter Sense, which basically is going to reveal to you if a monster has vulnerabilities or not, or resistances or not.
And you can use this a number of times. You go to your wisdom modifier. So being able to pull these kind of, informations, like you see into the monsters, so like I love these kind of things, and like, yeah, you can get into the gamey aspect, but to actually look and be able to kind of almost like that sci-fi tech where like, oh, I scan the creature and I know these things about it, but you can do it without any kind of magical devices because you are just that good at hunting.
So next up, we have Rogue. Rogues get, at 1st level, they get expertise. Again, you can take Perception.
I mean, you could even, pop them both into, like, insight and perception. So not only are you able to perceive the world around you, but maybe even perceive, what the words of the people around you that they aren't telling you.
Yeah.
When we move into the rogue subclasses, the Inquisitive, basically everything about this particular subclass gives you something that is, extrasensory. You can do your eyes of this and your ears of that, and it really kind of builds up on all of these things. So you could definitely go in that direction.
Yeah, I believe all of them except for the capstone ability are basically, they're all opposed roles though, right? And in order to get the drop on people, to know more, to know if they're lying, to detect certain things, it is a very cool and flavorful subclass that just, the abilities are like almost there compared to other abilities for other classes where it's like you get an ability, you can just do a thing. With this, it's like you get an ability, but then you have to beat them in order to make it work. But
it is a rogue, and if you're doing opposed skill rolls, you're gonna walk away with a number of expertises. So like you could wind up stacking those expertises on those skills, and that could be what they're intending.
And I think that's what you would almost have to do.
All right, so kind of, diving into the specifics, an ear for deceit, you basically can treat any kind of wisdom insight rolls of a 7 or lower as an 8, so it automatically bumps you up. Eye for detail, is, when you make a perception check to spot hidden creatures or make an intelligence check, you can do so as a bonus action as opposed to a full action. So those are nice. You can make with insightful fighting, you can make an insight check composed by your opponent's charisma deception check. If you succeed, you can sneak attack against them even if the attack doesn't have advantage. A steady eye at 9th level, you have advantage on perception or investigation checks if you move no more than half your speed. Unbearing Eye, your senses are impossible to foil. As an action, you can sense presence of illusions, shape changers not in their original form, or other magic, so long as you are of anything within 30 feet of you, so long as you're not blinded or deafened. And Eye for Weakness at 17th level, you learn to exploit a creature's weakness by studying its tactics. While your Insightful Fighting feature applies to a creature, your sneak attack damage is increased by 3d6.
So like I said, every single ability has something to do with senses and gauging your opponents, right? And being able to read them from physical and, different cues.
Absolutely.
So next up is Sorcerer with the subclasses, Aberrant Mind. At 14th level, you get Revelations of Flesh, and it basically gives you a menu of a bunch of things you can pick, one of which is the ability to see invisible things.
All right, so if you go with the Shadow Magic Sorcerer Origin, Eyes of the Dark is going to give you access to dark vision out to a range of 120 feet, as well as the ability to perceive through magical darkness. So this is, super helpful and, a not Warlock way of seeing in magical darkness.
Well, so one of the things you get too is the ability you get darkness as a spell that and you can choose to cast it using your sorcery points. You've actually played one of these sorcerers, right. And will be again soon.
Indeed.
but when you spend the sorcery point to do it, you can see through your own darkness, which is awesome because you can drop it on yourself. It means people can't target you with spells that require targeting, and also you can attack people that can't see you with advantage. All right, so next up is Warlock, and at 2nd level, Warlocks get access to invocations, Eldritch invocations, I should say, and they get a plethora of abilities, kicking it off with probably one of the most popular Eldritch invocations for the 5e D&D Warlock is Devil's Sight, and that just allows you to see out to 120 feet range in darkness and magical darkness as if it was, just normal daylight.
That one might be, the favorite trick because it's super heavy in combat. But for me, at 2nd level, I like to take Eyes of the Runekeeper. This is the one that allows you to read all writing, kind of like the creme de la creme of the exploration pillar for me of like, oh, there's something on the walls. Yep, I can read it. Oh, it's a strange book. Yep, I can read it. A lot of fun. And, sometimes, DM puts something in there like, all right, I don't want them to uncover this. This is going to be a mystery. The Warlock's, I got you covered.
So that's a fun one as well. But also Gaze of Two Minds is another one you can access early on. And that's basically you can see through another creature's eyes. So basically you can extend your senses to somebody else's. The only downside is you don't have access to your senses when you're using theirs.
There's also Eldritch Sight, which is going to allow you to cast Detect Magic at will.
Ghostly Gaze is a really fun one. It gives you dark vision. Only out to 30 feet, and you have to turn it on. But in addition to dark vision, it also gives you X-ray vision. But you're going to have to wait till 7th level to get to this one. You can see through walls.
Next up, at 15th level, you're going to be able to take Visions of Distant Realms. This is going to give you the ability to cast Arcane Eye at will and be able to send this thing out and kind of scout and look without actually having any real fear of you being in danger. Yeah, you might give away your presence, or maybe the thing that sees the floating eye might be kind of creeped out and flee on its own. Who knows?
Next up is a Voice of the Chainmaster, and basically you're familiar, you can now see through its eyes and perceive through its senses. As long as it's anywhere on the same plane as you, you can also use your voice to speak through it, even if it itself doesn't have a voice to speak with. So this is like the ultimate extension of the ability to use the familiar's power of seeing through its senses.
The last one in Warlock at 15th level is going to be Witch Sight, and this one is, kind of one of my favorites for the high level, though I haven't seen it used very much. This allows them to basically have the ability to beyond true sight of what things are. You see things that are invisible, you see things, anything that's transformed, anything that's, shape changed, polymorphed, what have you, you see things as it legit should be or is. So I would all right, If a Warlock took this, I would like run a heavy brush across all, not all characters, but a lot of characters that they've been interacting with. It's like, boom, this one's an undead, or this one's a fiend, this one's a celestial, that one's a dragon. So to have a character that you've been interacting with for all this time, and you get this ability, and all of a sudden, like, they're just towering over you. You're like, can I turn this off? Can I turn this off? I think it could be an absolute lot of fun and reshape, what the course of the rest of that game is going to be. Is like, well, do I trust this one? They've been friendly all of this time. Am I their puppet? Oh my God, what do I do?
All right, Ted. Last but not least is we've got wizard traditions. General wizard doesn't have anything because it's all about spellcasting mostly until you get to like 18th level, and even then it's still kind of about spellcasting.
Right.
So we don't have any class features to talk about.
But subclass features we do.
Features we do, starting with Order of the Scribe.
Order of the Scribe. You got to go all the way down that list before you can get into that. Manifest Mind allows you to, conjure forth the Awakened Spellbook. And this, as a bonus action, while the book is on your person, you can use the mind to manifest as a tiny spectral object hovering in unoccupied space within 60 feet of you. It's intangible and doesn't occupy a space. It sheds dim light. While manifested, the spectral mind can see and hear and has a dark vision with a range of 60 feet. And it can basically communicate with you telepathically. So it's another one of those little, scouty little deals that you can be able to use.
Yeah, so you can use it basically like you're familiar to see through it, send it out. And you can also send it up to like 300 feet away. Mm-hmm. But there's another ability where you can actually use it as the point of origin for your spells. So it extends your spells out like 300 feet. So not only do you get the sensory benefits of it, but also it extends your spells through it as well.
Yeah, so imagine like, you're scouting in a room and, oh crap, there's a whole bunch of skeletons. That's way more than we can handle. You know what? What if I just manifest my fireball right in that room? All of your party is safe, and,
Yeah, you can now cast spells essentially behind full cover. So next up, we have the School of Divination. You gotta wait all the way till 10th level, but at 10th level, you get some awesome perception powers with your Third Eye ability.
Yeah, so it's gonna give you dark vision out to a range of 60 feet, ethereal sight, you can see in the ethereal plane 60 feet, you can read any language, and you can see invisibility creatures and objects within 10 feet of you that are within line of sight.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to extend you out for sure. So we also have the School of Enchantment with Hypnotic Gaze. This one isn't so much that it helps with perception or perceiving things, but it is like a sight-eye power in a sense.
Yeah, so this allows you as an action to choose one creature you can see within 5 feet of you. If the target can see or hear you, it must succeed on a wisdom save against your spell save DC, or be charmed by you. The charmed creature's speed drops to 0, and the creature is incapacitated and visibly dazed.
So we thought we'd include this one because it's like the hypno eyes where hypnotoad where you stare into the eyes. But because of the fact that it is literally coming from your eyes, I felt this worked.
I completely agree. It's definitely a sight-based power or an eye-based power. So to me, that works.
Last but not least, we have the School of Transmutation with the Transmuter Stone.
The Transmuter Stone is definitely fun, and one of the things that I really like about this is it's mutable. You can make changes as you see fit, but you can gate the stone and then be able to give it to someone, so a creature gains the benefits of your choice as long as the stone's in the creature's possession. When you create the stone, choose the benefit from the following options. It can increase your speed, it can gain in saves, it can get resistance, but it can also give dark vision out to a range of 60 feet, and that's why we're including it here, because it's like, all right, somebody in my party just doesn't have the ability to see. They're constantly knocking their head into the stone walls while we're traveling underground. Boom. I got you covered, my friend.
So that wraps up our 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons character classes that have sight-based powers. Now we're going to go to the 5e D&D feats that offer up some goodies. And the first one being Eldritch Adept, which just gives you access to Eldritch invocations, all of which we just mentioned.
All right. And you are going to have the Warlock level up to, meeting those requirements. So like you can get the ones that don't have a prereq. So like the things that are essentially your 2nd level powers, but ones that say you need to be like 7th or 15th, like those ones, like, all right, they're not going to be able to be grabbed unless you happen to also be a Warlock. Another one is going to be Fighting Initiate. This is going to allow you to get a fighting style. And for our, super sensory kind of guy, this is person, this is where you'd want to take your blind fighting to get that blind sight.
So Keen Mind is one that's going to let you know which way is north, how many hours before the next sunset or sunrise, and then also anything that you've seen or read, you have perfect recall for the next 30 days.
To quote the feat, you can accurately recall. You know, some people might get sticklers for the wording, but it's definitely a lot of fun to be able to like, yep, I remember that. This is what happened. And when you don't live as the D&D character, if you don't have good notes, I know that there's some DMs like, well, you didn't say it, you didn't do it, you didn't like, but this happened in the real world, like a month ago, whereas like for us it was yesterday. Like, come on, really? So like this one, I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna gloss over that. I know this, it happened. You know, we can do it. So the next one up is Observant, and this is gonna allow you to read the lips of anyone who is speaking a language that you can understand, you know, as if you were actually hearing them speak. So that's gonna be super helpful, but it's also gonna give you a +5 on your passive perception as well as your passive investigation score. So you're gonna be keen at noticing details.
Prodigy is next up. That one is limited by your race. I believe you have to be either one of the half-human races or human, but it's going to give you access to tool proficiencies, doesn't matter, an expertise, which, you know, you could take perception, and a skill, which you could take perception.
So, you know, definitely a way to kind of, you know, tool the skill angle of that particular character. And speaking of skilled, you could take skilled, and this is going to give you access to 3 new skills. One, you know, you could take perception and insight and be able to pick up more on those kind of things.
Hey, we have a mini 5e D&D adventure that addresses senses or lack thereof. Gaze of the Void Eye. Are your 5th edition adventurers afraid of the dark? After this jaunt into a world of perpetual darkness to face the threat of the Void Eye, they will be. Perfect if you need an evening adventure or want to take your campaign in an unexpected direction with 6 new shadow spells, 5 new magic items, 5 new creatures including Bahagu, the Void Eye, tools for traveling a world of darkness. Lair of the Void Eye adventure is for 4 to 6 characters of 10th to 14th level. Check that out in the description below, one of these cards as well. If you like the character build, would like a character build of the site-based character, sensory-based character, let us know down in the comments below.
While you're down there, don't forget to do all those fun things, like, share, subscribe, even go ahead and click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
Quick reminder, we drop new videos here on the channel Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so come on back, but you can't wait till then. No worries, we got you covered with this card up here. We did another video that is loosely themed around the same thing, but different. Is this overpowered race feat in Dungeons & Dragons ruining your game?
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.